Hello guys, welcome to my first ever YouTube video. My name's Ben, I'm an animator and illustrator based in the east of England. This channel, this YouTube channel, is mainly for housing my live streams. I draw every single Monday at 8 PM UK time, so yeah, please come check me out. However, this channel is also going to be a place for me to be creative and talk about things that I enjoy, things that I love, and things that influence me. So that brings me to this video. This is going to be the first in a series of videos where I take books, comics, and other things I'm influenced by and put them under the camera and talk about them, analyze them, and discuss them with you guys. So for the first video, I've decided to go for what I believe is the first ever graphic novel I owned, or at least the first one that was ever bought for me. I don't know when, it was so long ago now. I think I might have been 6 or 7, but my mum bought this for me from Sheringham Market. Now, if you're based in England and the east of England, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Sheringham is a little seaside town. There used to be a market back in the 90s. There used to be a market on the train station car park. I don't know if it's there anymore, I doubt it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is where my mum got this book, but that doesn't matter. It was just so long ago, but I thought I'd just mention that. So the book I'm talking about, and you saw the thumbnail, so you know which one I'm talking about. It's not much of a surprise, but we're going to be talking about Spider-Man's greatest villains. So yeah, let's get this book under the camera and we'll talk about it. Hey guys, welcome to my first ever YouTube video. This is going to be the first in a series of videos where I'm going to be talking about certain books, mostly books, but some other bits and pieces as well, that are influences to me and my work, and stuff that I think you should probably check out if you get the chance, you know. And just a chance for me to basically just talk about stuff I love, to be honest, along with my live streams and stuff that you guys might have been checking out. If you have been seeing the live streams and you're enjoying them, and if you enjoyed this video, please do please do subscribe to me. That would be awesome. And give this video a like as well. I'll probably remind you at the end as well, because that's what you do, isn't it? With these YouTube videos, I think. I'm very new to this whole space, so, but yeah, thank you so much for joining me. So this first video, I'm going to be talking about my first ever graphic novel I ever read. This is Spider-Man's Greatest Villains. Obviously, I was aware who Spider-Man was, or Spider-Man is, at the time, because like most people in my generation, I really enjoyed the Spider-Man animated series. And this book was available around that time, but it was the first book I ever read that had Spider-Man looking different. And what I mean by that is it didn't look like the house style that was made for the cartoon, right? So just to give you an idea, so this book was published in London. It's a book, by Box Tree Limited, and it came out in 1995, I think it was. So what did it say? Yeah, 1995. So, you know, the cartoon was out and it was very popular. I think the cartoon came out a couple of years before. I think 93 was when it came out, maybe 94, I'm not sure. But just to give you an idea of what the comic was like. So when I was a kid, this is actually my childhood copy, by the way. Here is all new Spectacular Spider-Man Adventures, which is based on the hit TV series. And yeah, they're just straight up adaptations of the cartoon stories. As you can see, I mean, look, this was very well read. It's fallen apart, but this is my actual childhood copy. I do own a copy with the free gift and everything as well. I found it at like a comic convention once, and I bought that because I couldn't resist, because it's such an important piece of my childhood, so I really wanted to get a decent copy. But this is the actual copy I had when I was a kid, hence why it's a state. In fact, actually, we won't go too much into this comic because, of course, we're here about the graphic novel that's underneath. So, but I will just show it because it's just important, so you get the idea of what this is. What Spider-Man was to me. It was the cartoon and this kind of was made to look a bit like the cartoon. So it was kind of like, well, this is Spider-Man, right? But just to give you an idea, of how young I was, look at all these. These were like Sharpie, well, not Sharpie, like felt tip drawings that I was doing. So I was coloring in bits. I was so young. I was colouring all the eyes and stuff. It was any bits that were white I coloured in for some reason. Very strange. Yeah, and I'm not sure. I had to look this up, but I'm pretty sure this is an adaptation of one of the stories from the comics. So, from the cartoon. I'm certain this was, oh, cool, VR Troopers magazine. That's really cool as well. And it is, but what threw me about this, and what I was a bit peeved at, to be honest, is they've made, I think her name is Calypso, I think. They made her white. It's very odd, because she's not white in the cartoon. Very strange. Don't know why they did that, but anyway. You didn't need to whitewash her, man. That was just so weird. But anyway, I'm digressing. But basically, this was an adaptation of the Spider-Man cartoon. So that's kind of the comics or the version of Spider-Man that I was used to, right? So this graphic novel was the first time I was seeing this character outside of the medium. I know we just showed you a comic, but I meant it was still made to be in the same image as the cartoon. This was the first time I was seeing this character portrayed differently, written and it differently, looked different. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But this was clearly made to capitalize on the cartoon. And the reason I say that is because, first of all, we'll go from the cover first. As you can see, this cover here, I've never seen that image anywhere else. I don't know if you guys have. I've never seen it used anywhere else. And I had to look up the illustration, but you got it on the front here and the back. They reuse it. I mean, it's blurred out a lot here. You just see the head with the synopsis at the back, or the blurb. So we call it. I can't remember what it is on the back. So they reused it, and I looked up I tried to look up the artist, but the artist who worked on it was a guy called Bradley Peter Parker, which, I mean, that's got to be, that can't be a coincidence, right? Maybe they put the Peter in the middle just for this project or something. But yeah, try looking up Bradley Peter Parker on Google. It's obviously very hard to do, so I couldn't actually find much information about the guy that drew it. But if you guys know anything, please let me know. But it's clearly been made specifically for the book. And the reason I say that is not just because I've never seen it before, but the cover shows the Spider-Man and the 8 villains that are actually in the book. Now, I don't know if there is a specific... Do you know what I mean? It feels like it's a very specific commission, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna have these 8 villains in the book. Can you draw Spider-Man with those 8 villains? Because, you know, that version of the Vulture with Carnage, I just think is just, I've never seen that. Do you know what I mean? It's very weird to see Steve Ditko related characters mixed in with something from the 90s when you see Venom and Carnage there. And I'm not saying that never happens, but in terms of the looks of them, that's why it looks weird to me. Do you know what I mean? So just to start off with this cover though, it's very strange, the choice of villains. Well, it's not strange. I think the thing what threw me most of all is if you did a greatest villains anthology, you would have characters such as the Sandman. He's not there. And most importantly, the glaring omission is Green Goblin. And it's very strange to me. And the only reason I can see why Green Goblin isn't in this is because Hobgoblin's there. And if you look at the cartoon, Green Goblin didn't appear until really late into the cartoon's, well, not really late, but a lot later in the cartoon's lifespan. And I think it's got to be something to do with that, because you put Hobgoblin in there, and Hobgoblin, it's the one rare time where they put Hobgoblin first, due to toy stuff, which we don't have time to get into, so I won't go into that now. But it was just really interesting. The one thing that also threw me is Electro down here, because again, much like Green Goblin, didn't appear for ages. Like, you didn't see him in the show at all. So, very strange. But the only reason I can think of the reason that they had these characters is because of the show, but not having Kraven in it is also an odd choice. Rather, I would have swapped him out for Electro, swap Electro out for Kraven. Just seems odd, because Electro is also a late addition. Because if you're going to put him, why didn't you put Green Goblin? Anyway, that's kind of why I find the whole compilation quite interesting. It's clearly meant to feed back into the fact that there's a cartoon now. That's what I think anyway, it's my theory. I don't know, there's not a lot of information on this book. Anyway, let's have a look inside, shall we? So, the first story they choose is The Menace of Mysterio. I'm just put this central here, there we go. And this one's very interesting because it's the only story, as far as I'm aware. In fact, I'm dead certain now actually when I was rereading these, because I did reread these before. Well, most of them. I didn't quite read the final 2 stories, but I read most reread most of these in preparation for this video. The Menace of Mysterio is the only first appearance of a villain storyline. All the rest are like, they've already met Spider-Man and all this stuff. But this one's interesting because they've decided to go for the first appearance of Mysterio. Very strange. Maybe there just was, I don't know, I probably could, maybe there isn't any other more interesting Mysterio stories. I don't know. Mysterio is one of my favorites, probably is my favorite supervillain from Spider-Man, so, and it's weird, this was the first time I ever saw a Steve Ditko and Stan Lee comic. Because this would be it. This was like I said, this was me experiencing The Amazing Spider-Man from 1960, this one's 1964, this issue, for the first time ever. So in this story, Spider-Man is robbing a bank, but it turns out it's not Spider-Man, of course, it's Mysterio posing as Spider-Man, and then it's just that whole storyline of him being framed and that stuff. And it's funny because they already did that with the very first issue of Amazing Spider-Man, which has the Chameleon, who does exactly the same thing. So they've already used that storyline. 12 issues later, they decided to do it again, but different villain, right? It was so surreal. I think as a kid, I'm trying to think back of when I was a kid, and seeing the juxtaposition of like the animated series version where it's all muscular and all the supervillains are muscular and stuff like that, and then you see Steve Ditko's art and everyone's really sort of weird and lanky, like weird shapes. Looking at Mysterio alone, Mysterio is super buff in the cartoon, but you look at him here, just a skinny dude, right? But such an amazing design, such a cool, interesting design for 1964 as well. Such a really cool villain. Some of this imagery is just stuck into my head, like him fighting him on the Brooklyn Bridge. Yeah, it's the Brooklyn Bridge, isn't it? What does it say? Yeah, the Brooklyn Bridge. Yeah, I know New York. I know enough about New York. That image I always thought was very cool. The way that the shadows would come down, and you see, like, it was just for 1964, just having the sort of like weight and 3D look of it is just, yeah. You feel everything's there. Love it. And also experiencing these, this one isn't a 9-panel grid, but Steve Ditko would do a lot of 9-panel grid stuff. Again, you didn't see that in 90s comics, it wasn't really a thing, so having these little squares controlling the action, it's very interesting how Steve Ditko would do that. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to bring up here with the story, with this issue. Oh, this was cool, and this was something that stood out to me. This image has always stood out to me. When I was a kid, this always stood out to me. It was Quentin Beck sort of sitting there with a newspaper when it's just Mysterio talking about, because, you know, supervillains did back then, they would just tell the hero about their lives before they took them out. And that's what he was doing. And I thought these monster toys thing, you know, maybe foreshadowing for my own life, where I love a good monster toy sitting on a shelf. But I think they're supposed to be references to Steve Ditko's other works from, because he used to work in like sci-fi and alien books before he did Spider-Man. And this image as well is very Stan Lee to me. Stan Lee and Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby as well. But like this whole idea of how they would show the reader how the costumes work, they do it with superheroes and supervillains. There's a bunch of Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four stuff like that as well. Again, these images stood in my mind because of that spring. Love the way that this moves in where Mysterio gets punched through the smoke, and the weight and the movement of the legs. It's so good. Yeah, not a lot else to say really, to be honest, about this. Really cool story, and like I said, first time I ever saw Steve Ditko work, and Stan Lee, and the amount of words that Stan Lee puts in the panel, it's a lot. So then the next issue is vastly different, because the next issue that they use is from 1988, I believe. It's like maybe early 90s. Yeah, Dead Meat, 1988, there you go, in Amazing Spider-Man 316. Which is written by David Michelini and drawn by the great Todd McFarlane. You know, very different. Like you're talking about, and I think this would be at the time kind of one of the more, well, 1988, this came out in 1995, so maybe not quite, but this is probably one of the later books, and then this is one of the earlier books, so it's quite a juxtaposition here. Then it's lettered by Rick Parker, colored by Bob Sharon, and Jim Scalakrub was the original editor at the time. Yeah, really cool. I think there's some real dark imagery in this version as well, seeing like this I mean, like here, yeah, this image where you're seeing Venom's mouth on with Eddie Brock's eyes is terrifying for some reason. The whole face of Venom is quite scary, but that in particular is very, very scary. And here we go. This is the famous Spider-Man. This is what I associate Todd McFarlane. I have a huge nostalgia for Todd McFarlane, as much as a lot of people in my generation have a lot of nostalgia for this version of Spider-Man. It's fantastic. The poses are ridiculous. No one's body moves like that, but you know what? It's this sort of, it invokes the energy of a spider. Not to mention, it just looks like it has a lot of weight to it. Like I'm feeling that movement, do you know what I mean? Even though, you know, poses don't go, no one's body moves that way, but that's okay. I also like, in this version, they didn't show it, that one there wasn't any for some reason. Yeah, they don't show the comic dots. But here you can see the little, you can see the tone stuff, you know, the comic dots that would then form the colors. They do that a whole bunch in this story and a bunch of other stories as well, but not on the Steve Ditko one for some reason. Here's Black Cat with that ridiculous outfit. That's a very 90s version of it. I mean, I know we're in late 80s, but you know, it's getting that way. But I love that it's so dynamic. These sort of, love that shot. That's very nice. So dynamic how they do that. And quite visceral at times. Yeah, see the movement here, it's like insane, like the action sequence is quite violent as well. That image stuck out to me in particular. I found it terrifying. The way Venom would just beat on Black Cat is horrible. But yeah. Yeah, I'd never really seen anything like it because of course this kind of stuff wouldn't be in the comics. I'm just gonna skim through it a bit because some of it's not really relevant, I'd say, to talk about. This image here is crazy. So when I was rereading this, I remembered this image vaguely, but this shot is awesome. Really great Todd McFarlane pose. Obviously, it doesn't look like that. No human moves like that. It doesn't matter. Moving on from that. But what's interesting about this is the background is clearly a photocopy or a Xerox or whatever, and he's just drawn on top of it. And there's nothing wrong with that because Jack Kirby had done it in the past, and so did Will Eisner was famous for doing it too on some of his Spirit comics. When you're on a deadline, you're a deadline, right? And even, oh yeah, and there's like a whole bunch of manga that does it too, so it's not a big deal. It was just interesting, and I just wanted to point it out because I never noticed that as a kid, obviously, but as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's a photocopy. That's a photocopy that they've coloured in, maybe like overexposed it a bit to make it look more inky. And they do it, yeah, they do it again here. Awesome pose. Great pose from Todd McFarlane there, fantastic. Love these Spider-Man poses. But again, yeah, same thing, background. Yeah, and then Spider-Man encounters Venom here. And they're in a sort of like a slaughterhouse or something. I thought that was gross, seeing the meat getting ripped and stuff. And then just sort of ends, to be honest. Not that we're here necessarily to talk about the stories. I mean, we are. I mean, I suppose we are talking about the stories as well. But I'm mainly here just to talk about the book in general. But I mean, that one was a bit weird. I think that was the end for now. That's obviously like, I think that might have been the second appearance. I'm not sure. Maybe the second appearance of Venom. But still cool. And then you go right back to a story from, probably should have written this down. So this is the Vulture story, Let Fly These Aged Wings, which was originally published in Amazing Spider-Man, sorry, number 224 from 1982. So it was only 6 years ago. Sorry, 6 years previous, but it's done in this sort of art style that is kind of similar to John Romita Sr., even though it's not John Romita Sr., it's actually drawn by his son. Yeah, so Roger Stern wrote it, and John Romita Jr. and Pablo Marcos are the artists behind it. Then you got Joe Rosen as the letterer, Glynis Ween as the colorist, and Tom DeFalco as the original editor. This was sort of like the house style. There was a period of Spider-Man where Spider-Man comics looked like John Romita Sr. drawings. I think that's it, final. That's what they had to look like, right? And so that's kind of what this one looks like. It's very jarring when you're reading this book. And I think I even noticed it as a child, suddenly seeing this story and then seeing this one, and they looked completely different. Like, it is a little jarring. So in this story, Vulture is in a retirement home. He's sort of reformed, and then Aunt May's fiance, like trying to convinces him to accidentally convinces him to become the Vulture again. I won't go into what happened and stuff, but you know, I think it's more talking about something else and it's a misunderstanding, and then Adrian Toome's like, yeah, I will be the Vulture again. And it's just kind of like, It's pretty much an evergreen story, bar some certain things, like there's clearly some sort of rivalry between Peter Parker and this journalist who I don't really remember. And obviously Adrian Toomes has been in retirement because of a certain fight that Peter and him had, and then here he is. This stood out to me as well, that image. That's when I realized that the Vulture from the cartoon is not the Vulture from the comics, like completely different. This Vulture is just clearly just an old dude. In the cartoon, it was an old dude who could like drain your energy and he'd become young. Completely different vibe. This is just a guy with wings. This is very Steve Ditko, do you know what I mean? It's like, Steve Ditko would just do, yeah, just some bloke, just some old pensioner with wings. That's the Vulture. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Oh, Doctor, oh, it's just an overweight guy with glasses who has robot tentacles. Like, okay, cool. Sandman, it's just a bloke with a striped jumper and you can, control sand. It's just very Steve Ditko. It's very funny. So that's kind of the Vulture. Like in the 90s, they made him more like, yeah, he's like got claws and he's got like an energy vampire basically. But in this, like, no, just some dude. Just some dude who made wings. I like that though. I do like the Steve Ditko, like everyman villains. I always thought they were pretty cool. But yeah, not too much to say about the story, to be honest. It's just to mention it was a Vulture story, and yeah, we'll move on from there. Kingpin, that's the next story. Mission Crush the Kingpin, which is the first John Romita Sr. story in this. There's two John Romita Sr. stories in this book, and this one's written by Stan Lee, and also John Romita Sr. was also involved in the plot too. Jim Mooney was the inker, and Sam Rosen was the letterer. And this issue came out in 1969. It's issue number 69 in 1969. And this is just obviously great. Like, as much as I want to point out, there was a period where the Spider-Man comics became stale, right? Because they were trying to focus on looking like John Romita all the time. I still have massive respect for that artist. His stuff is so good. And I think this story is it's no exception. Like it's so good. Love that panel. The coloring on that panel is really cool as well. It's something that I've always I just remembered quite strongly from when I was a child. I think here is something that I thought when I was rereading it as an adult threw me a little bit, because there's clearly it's gonna happen, right? Because these are just random stories from the comic all over the place, time-wise. There's clearly some things that are happening in the previous issues that I did not know, I don't understand about, or don't know about at the time. Like, apparently there's like this whole thing with these gangsters and there's a protest. And in the middle of this story, there's this whole thing of Robbie talking to his son, and they mentioned the whole thing about just being like, talking about the white man establishment and stuff like that. And it's just like, wow, there's this really sort of poignant, like, stuff that they're talking about from the late 60s, like talking about like race and classes and all this other stuff in the middle of this random compilation of comics. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, okay, that'd be cool to go back. We haven't got time for that. Moving on to Kingpin. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, okay, cool. There's all this stuff going on, but now we've got to get back to this because it's a compilation of villains. We're highlighting the villains, you see. Just very interesting. And I never noticed that as a kid, because I probably didn't even read that as a kid. I just read, when I reread it, I was like, oh yeah, that's it. Oh, okay. That feels like that's part of a bigger thing that we're not going to talk about right now. Do you know what I mean? So this threw me. Spider-Man with his top off. It's very weird. I don't know what it is. Just find it very strange. I think it's because he's got the gloves on as well. I think that's just really weird to me. But he uses his costume to try and distract the bad guys with like put a shirt on it just to distract them, and they fell for it. So they just started shooting at it, and then he starts putting that on. Love that though. I love the sequence of him putting the top on. Each panel you see like the shirts going on gradually. Love that as he's moving. It's very cool. There's a lot of energy in these pages, and I love it. I love these shots of the Kingpin fight. Really, really good. So the only time I struggle with the the storytelling is this one bit here. When I was a kid, I always thought maybe like Spider-Man had accidentally stabbed like the Kingpin, because you can see here it's sort of like, it looks like what's happened is the cane has blown up in half, but it looks like it's almost been stabbed in the middle. I don't know if you see that, but that's kind of what I saw. That was my only, and I said again as an adult, I'm looking at it, no, I can still see that. But yeah, really, but I mean, that's me nitpicking a little bit. The story was great, but like I said, the only issue I had with, and I have an issue with some of the stories, but that one is in particular, it feels like there was so much other outside information that we weren't privy to when reading that story. So the next story here is from an issue of Web of Spider-Man, the first, as far as I'm aware, only issue outside of Amazing Spider-Man that's being shown in this book. This is from Web of Spider-Man. It's called Moving Up, and it's the Hobgoblin issue, and it's written by Fabian Necessiza, I think his name is, the writer. Alex Saviuk, I don't know these people, unfortunately. Alex, I'm not sure, Saviuk, I'm not going to butcher that, but that's a penciler. Keith Williams and Mike Esposito is the inkers. Rick Parker is the letterer. Janet Jackson is the colorist. Don't think it's that Janet Jackson. and Jim Salakrub was the original editor. Again, we're going back to this sort of like John Romita-esque looking style. This, as far as I'm aware, I think came out the same year. Yeah, so 1988 is when this was published, the same year as that Venom issue we showed. And you can see where Todd McFarlane sort of came in and changed the way this whole thing looked. Because at this point, for that many years, John Romita's art style was the house style for Spider-Man. It's just crazy to think that they went on for that many years. But yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount to say about this story. I think the Hobgoblin design looks awesome because it's that ripped sort of stuff that I never saw in the cartoon. I thought that was really cool, and occasionally you would see it where it's just his eyes. I really liked that. Also, this story has the black costume, not explained, obviously. It's not explained. Why would it be? So when I was a kid, I was like, oh, okay, cool, it's just a black costume. Why not? I mean, it is a sick costume. I like it. But there was obviously that period in the comics, that Black Cat made a fabric version of the costume because she thought it looked really good. I mean, I don't blame her. It's awesome. But yeah, not a huge amount to say. It was all right. Yeah, moving on. And then came Electro, the second John Romita Sr. story with the same credits as the Kingpin issue. And I love the halftone on this. This page in particular is just something I really enjoy. I love that texture. I love it. It looks so good. But yeah, and I think this was the only story I read of Electro at the time because Electro wasn't in the cartoon, as I expressed at the start of the video. So I didn't know who this Electro guy was. I think eventually I did get an annual from the 70s, I think, that had Electro in, but that was my only exposure to that character. Yeah, a retelling of the origin, which was very helpful for me. So it's not the first appearance, like far from it. It's like, because he was a Steve Ditko character, and as I said, this is a John Romita drawing, but it was really helpful to have that origin for me. I think this is the one story I can think of that it was very much an evergreen story because it basically, and don't get me wrong, I think all the stories do this because as Stan Lee has said in the past, every single issue is probably someone's first issue, and they sort of were doing that quite a lot. You don't really see that in comics anymore, for better or for worse. This story felt like it was an evergreen story. Like I could read this and I didn't need any information because all the information I needed was expressed to me. Although I didn't know who Gwen Stacy was, but that's not the comic's fault. I didn't know who Gwen Stacy was. I didn't know who Gwen Stacy was in one of the other previous stories either. Loved this. The first time I experienced the amazing Bag Man, because Peter's costume needed a wash and stuff from all the gross electric stuff. Yeah, look, there he is. I love this image. This image stuck out to me. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that Spider-Man had his own costume. He could just put a bag on his head. There we go. And then the fight happens in the TV studio. This was cool as well. I loved this. Yeah, I think this might have been one of my favorite stories, to be honest, from the book. I thought it was fantastic, considering Electro wasn't a big deal for me. In fact, actually, thinking about it, I think I own this issue. As in, it's part of my Silver Age Spidey collection. I think so. What issue was it? Originally appeared in Spider-Man 82. I think I might have that, I'll have to look for that, see if, because I do vaguely remember seeing a cover of them fighting in a TV studio. So it turns out I do have a copy of issue 82 of Amazing Spider-Man. Really cool. Love that. I think that was one of my favorite stories. And now this is The Mortal Past, which is the Carnage story. And I think this one, if I'm not mistaken, is the youngest. Yeah, 1994. We are in the 90s. This was only a year ago, a year previous, and the book came out. So, and yeah, this is kind of what you. Again, don't have much to say. It's very, very 90s. Look at it. Very nice. If you love Carnage, you'll love the story. I think they chose a really good Carnage story. It's very 90s. Spider-Man with a big gun. I don't really have much to say, to be honest. Oh, I should mention who did the. I'll mention the credits. Sorry, I should actually say who actually worked on the book. There's the jury. I think they're called the jury. David Michelini again, writer. Stephen Butler was the penciler. Bud LaRosa as the inker. Joe Rosen as the letterer. Tom Smith as the colorist, and Danny Fingeroth as the original editor. But yeah. Not a huge amount to say, to be honest. It's if you like your 90s comics, it's pretty rad. The Carnage drawings are fantastic, I think. I loved the fact that they showed a bit of Cletus Cassidy when he was a child, and they did this sort of this way of showing it, this flashback. Loved it, the use of the colors. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I realize the time, so I'm trying to move on a little bit. Loved that as well. That stuck out to me as well, the idea of like him changing into his civvies. I quite like that. And then finally, the another Stan Lee and Steve Ditko Spider-Man, just to see us off. And this is the Doc Ock issue, Dr. Octopus, which was unmasked by Dr. Octopus, which originally appeared in Spider-Man issue 12. Oh, that was the issue before Mysterio. That's interesting. That's great. Oh no, was it before Mysterio? Am I thinking a different character? Was it before Mysterio? Was that issue 13, I thought? Yeah, it was. So this was the issue before issue 13. Interesting that they did that, and they've done it the other way around, but there you go. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. I don't really have much to say about it, to be honest. It's another Steve Ditko and Spider-Man. It's another Steve Ditko and Stan Lee story with Spider-Man. And if you like that kind of thing, you'll like it. I don't really have much to say. It's one of the better stories, I think, in the book as well. It's just Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock. He gets unmasked, but no one believes that that Spider-Man's Peter Parker. It's quite a famous storyline because it was a good way of doing it. I think it was very clever of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko to do it, where it's like, oh yeah, well if Doc Ock unmasks him, because he's puny Parker, everyone just doesn't think it's actually true. And that was it. And that was just, it's like, which is fair enough. I don't see, why would they? Oh yeah. The zoo. Dr. Octopus sets free all the animals in the zoo. Yeah, this was weird. I remember as a kid, because I didn't really read these as a kid, I just sort of looked at them. I was already confused by the fact that Spider-Man was fighting a monkey. Fighting an ape, sorry I should say. Great shots though, I love this. Yeah, this is brilliant. I really had a good time going through this, guys. Going through this for the video. I really enjoyed this because it was like, first of all, I forgot I even had the book. This image stuck out to me. I think it's when it's this splash of like color, this splash of intense color with this sort of colder color background. I think that those seem to stick into my young child brain for some reason. Maybe it's just because color, I guess. Oh yeah, it was so good. Sorry, where was I? Oh yeah, this was really fun. This was really fun to go through and look through the. Oh, I love this as well because I never saw the belt. I don't think when I was a kid I never saw it. I mean, I think it did show in the comic, in the cartoon at some point, but I just didn't think I really saw it at the time. But yeah, so cool. And then it ends. What a good one to end on. Yeah, this was great. At first, I didn't think I had the book, and then I found it when we moved, and I was like, oh, fantastic. This was the book I had when I was a kid. This was my first ever graphic novel I had when I was a kid. The earliest one I can remember, anyway. So yeah, thank you for joining me on this trip down memory lane. There's going to be some more videos very soon. Thank you for joining me for my first ever one, talking about the first ever Spider-Man, well, first ever graphic novel I read, but first ever Spider-Man book I ever, like comics I ever really read. If you enjoyed the video, please give this a like and subscribe to my channel and you'll get to see some more videos. I'm going to be doing more of these kind of like show and tell videos. I do drawing streams every single Monday at 8 PM over on here and on Twitch as well at the same time. So please do come and check me out on those. You get to see like a lot of this stuff that you're seeing in the background is stuff I've done on the stream. So yeah, if you want to see me drawing in pencil and ink the majority of the time, that's what I'm doing on the stream. So yeah, come join me, 8 p.m. UK time. Yeah. Thanks, guys.